this computer. Okay, so let's talk about layer masks. So layer masks are very important for Photoshop, like I mentioned earlier. And this project two is all layer masks. We still have to resize the images to put them into our project, but then we're going to do layer masks. So let's see. Let's talk about, boy, should we talk about the most easy mask? Let's talk about, I don't want to talk about the most easy mask first. Let's talk about the most common and the most useful mask first, okay? So let's go to the, I'm going to just show you the flower. So I'm going to select my flower layer. I'm gonna hide these. I think hide these. Okay, we don't need to see that. Okay, go away, bag. Okay, so here's my flower. I'm gonna put it here so you can see it. And I'm gonna zoom in on it using my zoom tool. Zoom tool is the magnifying glass. Z is the shortcut, or I could press Control plus to zoom in, whatever. Okay, now the traditional way, I'll show you all the ways to make the mask. The traditional way is to use the lasso, right? So the lasso makes selections. The lasso, there's a polygon lasso and there's a regular lasso. The polygon lasso, I'll just show you. I'm gonna make a terrible mask here. So if I select around my flower using the polygon lasso, every time you click, it will draw a new line. And then when you want to close your selection with the polygon lasso, you either A, get to the beginning of your lasso and a circle will appear next to your little lasso icon. So then you click once if you get the circle. If you're too lazy or you can't find the beginning, sometimes I can't find the beginning, you can just double click. If you double click, it'll complete your selection. So if you're close to the beginning and you double click, it makes your selection. Now, obviously, that's a terrible selection, but it is a selection. You know it's a selection because it has these marching dots. They call them marching ants. You know, they're kind of surrounding the picture, right? And we talked about this. Now, to make a mask, I just go to my, I go to the bottom of my layers panel. Let's see. I'm going to move my layers out so you can see it a little better. So the bottom of my layers panel, there's a little box with a white, well, there's a box with a circle in it. That's the mask. So I'm going to click on the mask and there it is. So it's like, okay, there's my mask. Now that's a terrible mask, right? Because it doesn't conform to the shape of the flower. So I'm going to throw that mask away. Whenever you make a mask though, well, let me show you this while we have it open. I have my terrible mask. So here's my terrible mask. It's a black and white mask, right? Let me make it the panel bigger so you can see it a little bigger. Okay, so that might help. So what you want to remember is when you have a mask, imagine this is it's not visually directly on top of the layer, but the mask is directly on top of the layer. But they have to kind of put the thumbnail to the sides so that you can see it, right? So this is on top of this technically. Okay. Now, whenever you make a mask, you can select on either the layer. So if I select the layer, there's like a little brackets. There's brackets or kind of a frame around the layer. If I click on the mask, the brackets or the frame will be on the mask. And usually when you do that, your properties panel will open up. And the properties panel gives you some options for your mask. Now, let's see. I don't use the properties panel very much, but it can be very useful. So for instance, let's look at the most useful thing is that you can give it a feather. Now, in the past, there's a more tricky way to give it a feather. And I don't even think I'm going to show you that old tricky way, but there is a way. I'll just tell you. The old way to make a feather, you make your selection, and then before you make the mask, you would go select menu, you would go Ooh, oh, here it is, modify. Ooh, it won't even let me do it because I don't have a selection. Hold on, I'll just do it. So if I had a selection, this is the old way. If I had a selection before I make the mask, I would go select, modify, feather, and I would feather it. Then I would make my mask. And that's kind of a pain. But now with the properties panel, you can just give it a feather. So watch, I'm going to give it a feather, softens the edges. So watch, I'm just going to give it a feather here. I'll give it a lot. So it kind of softens the edge. What is that, 1.6? 3. So the more, the bigger, the higher the number of pixels that you feather it, the softer it gets. But we don't use that very often, although we will use it a little bit on our model. We, or actually we're gonna use it on the tree. On the tree, we may feather it 1 pixel, right? So, but that's it. Okay, what's density? Is density like, is it gonna make it gray? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So density, so black hides your image. I think in your little handout, it says white reveals, black conceals, right? Or hides. I just say it hides, but it rhymes if you say white reveals, black conceals, right? So if I change, so if it's black, if the mask is black, everything is hidden, everything in the black is hidden perfectly. But for some reason, I don't know why you would ever do this, you could change the density so that it's not black. You can, you can kind of see it here. So here in my mask, it's not black anymore, it's like a dark gray. And so it doesn't perfectly hide the whole image. You can kind of see it ghosting there a little bit. It's slightly visible. But like, that's a rarity. Like, I've never needed to do anything like that. Usually I want it to be black, right? Okay, finally, so feathering's great. Let's see, what else do we have? Options. You can throw it away. Oh, you can hide the visibility. Let me see, let me try this. Okay, that's kind of useful. Actually, yeah, that's useful. So if my art director comes in, the only reason why you would need this is probably just for your art director. Like your art director would be like, wasn't there a flower on the left? And we're like, I don't know, like I have a mask. And then she'll say like, well, hide the mask. And so using the properties, I can turn on the eye or turn off. Oh yeah. And then she'll say, no, I wanted you to do this flower. So do it again. And you can see a big red X. That just means it's hidden. And then to make it to apply the mask again, I just click on the eye. I don't use that very often either. It's just something to know about. The trash can is nice. So I have a terrible mask here, so I'm going to throw it away. So I can click on the trash can in properties. So that's nice. Normally, the old way, you could drag, in fact, let me do it this way. The old-fashioned way is to drag the mask directly to the trash can in your layers panel. So let me do that. I drag it to the trash. It didn't ask me. Sometimes when you drag it if you drag a mask to a trash can, sometimes it will ask, do you want to permanently apply the mask? And if you permanently apply the mask, I don't know if it says permanently. I think it just says, do you want to apply the mask? And you click yes, it will throw the mask away, but it will permanently discard whatever part of the image you are hiding. So I usually don't do that. Usually what I do is I say, no, don't apply it. And then your layer is back to normal. The reason, so I'm just gonna drag it to the trash. And now my layer is back to normal. I can see the whole layer. I think the reason why I didn't get that warning box is because I checked, don't show me that again. Because it's like, I don't want to see that. Like, so I probably checked it to like, don't show me that. But normally it'll give you a warning. But don't worry about that if that doesn't make much sense. That's kind of extra information. Okay, so now let me show you how to properly make, there's a lot of different ways on how to make a mask. So I'm gonna use the lasso and I'm gonna very carefully trace, this flower. In fact, I think we want this one. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. So I wanna zoom in a little closer. By the way, look at this pixelation. This is terrible. It's a small image and I'm zoomed in really close, but this is pretty pixelated. But by the time by the time I zoom out, it'll probably look fine. Like you won't see that pixelation, those little blocks. Okay, so I can use, you could use the polygon. I'm gonna use the regular lasso just because that's what I always use. And when you use the polygon lasso, you can just draw your lasso. And as you can see, it's difficult to just freehand draw. Let me see if I can do it. Nope. I'm trying to freehand. It's okay, but it's pretty crappy. I'm trying to freehand a selection around that flower, and I missed the mark, right? It wasn't very good. So usually usually what you want to do is you want to use the polygon lasso, or you can use the regular lasso. Here's what I do. If you hold the alt key while you use the lasso, it will temporarily give you the polygon lasso. And so that's what I'm going to do. And what I do is I use short little lines to approximate the curve of my shape that I'm selecting. So I'm just tracing around this guy. And now you're probably thinking, Dave, why don't you just use the polygon lasso if you're converting your regular lasso to the polygon lasso for most of the time? That's a good point that you have there. What I can do is if I let go of the alt, I don't want to do it because I need to tightly trace this. I'm trying to be careful. But if I let go of the alt key, which I'm going to do, I can freehand part of my selection, and then I can hold the alt key again and get back to the polygon. So that's a little tricky. If you can do it, great. If you can't, just use the polygon lasso, if that makes sense to you. But the nice thing about the polygon lasso is, what's the nice thing about the polygon lasso? It enables you to get really close and to get a nice, precise selection. Because when we use some of the other selections, you will see that, there, so I'm going to complete my selection. There it is. You'll see that when we use the other options like the magic wand and stuff, sometimes it doesn't select everything, right? And it's kind of, sometimes you need to use the lasso anyways. Now let's zoom in here. Let's imagine, here I'm going to screw up on purpose. Let's imagine that I didn't get part of my selection. So what can I do? I can add to the selection. So I'm going to zoom in here so I can kind of see what I need to do. I need to add to the selection here. How do I add to the selection? If I use I'll just use the polygon. I'll use the polygon. So polygon lasso. How do I add to the selection? Well, you can hold shift. If you hold shift and select the part that you need to add, and I'm going to screw up here on purpose too. I'm going to add extra, so I'll show you how to delete, right? But if I hold shift, I can make a selection and add. Notice that I'm overlapping this line. Like it'll just add it all together. And then I go back to the beginning. I'm going to double click there. So I added to the selection. So holding shift, right? Holding shift is a good habit. There's other ways to add to the selection, but I hold shift to add, shift adds, and then the alt key, or option if you're on a Mac. I think the alt is option on a Mac. If I hold the alt key, I can delete or subtract from the selection. So here I've got this like weird spike. It's just an extra part of the selection. So if I hold the alt key, you'll also notice when you hold the alt key, there's a little minus sign. That means you're going to be subtracting. What I'm going to do is, okay, you're gonna select around the portion you want to delete. Notice how I kind of went around the part that I want to delete. And that's fine. I hold the alt key and then I just complete my selection and that deletes it, right? So if you hold the alt key, you can subtract from the selection. If you hold the shift key, you can add to the selection. Now, some of you are tech savvy and you're like, oh, but Dave, those options are right up here. They are. So on the top of this is the control panel. I have I think this is new selection. The second one is add. The second one is subtract. Oh, and then this one is intersect. Ew, that's weird. So you're probably thinking, hey, Dave, I could just do add right here, right? And then I can add to the selection. Maybe I just want to add part of this flower, which I don't. And then you're like, oh, and now I want to delete it. I can just click on, well, it's subtract. I could click on this, subtract from the selection, right? And now I can subtract this extra part. That's true. You could use these buttons. The only reason why I say I use Shift and Alt because what happens is sometimes my students, they leave it at the setting and they forget to go back to new selection. And so then their selection tool won't work. They're like, how come this doesn't work? It's because they left it on subtract. So that's why it's like, just to avoid that problem in the future, if I want to add, Shift, subtract, Alt. But I'll leave it up to you. You can do however you like. So anyways, using my selection tool, I selected my flower perfectly. Now I'm just going to make the mask. To make the mask, I can go to the bottom of my layers panel. I click on the box with the circle and I make the mask. There it is. It looks pretty good. If I don't want to feather my selection because it's so tiny, but if I wanted to feather this, I could give it a 1 pixel feather. I'm just going to type in 1 and press enter. Did that work? I'm going to undo it. Let me zoom in. Let me see if it made a difference. Yeah. Sometimes you want to have a slightly soft edge, so a 1 pixel feather is pretty good. I recommend 1 pixel. Some teachers, they'll do maybe a 2 pixel feather. But 1 pixel, you can kind of tell the difference. You just want to soften it a little bit. Anything more than 1 or 2 pixel feather gets pretty soft. And you have to intentionally want to have a soft edge. But right now, the edge of this feather and the stem, or I'm sorry, the edge of this flower and the stem, it's pretty hard edge. So I don't want to really soften it that much. So it's okay. So that's my mask. Now, what else can I do with a mask? I have a mask here. Currently, my mask is black and white. It's hard to see, but there's like a tiny little white spot. That's where you can see my image. The most useful thing about a layer mask, as opposed to a vector mask, you use the pen tool, it's a sharp edge, but the best purpose of a layer mask is that you can fade an image, or you can dissolve an image, or you can have a soft edge like on hair. So like hair, you want to have a soft edge. So just let me show you. I can fade the stem. Now you don't want to fade the stem in your project, but let me show you. I'm going to pick a paintbrush. I pick my paintbrush. I'm going to pick a soft brush. So I can go up to the control panel up here. I can pick my soft. Ooh, it says it's soft. Okay, I got soft round. I can use my bracket, my left and right bracket, to make my brush bigger. So here it is, it's bigger. I'm going to pick black. And then you want to make sure that your mask is selected, because I want to paint black in the mask. So I have a soft brush, and I'm just going to, so there. So I painted some black. I painted a soft black. It's almost like an airbrush. I painted a soft, round brush, big. The bigger the soft brush, the more soft and airbrushy it looks. And then I just picked black. So I have black here, and I just painted it. Now I'm going to undo that just to get back to normal. So you have that potential. Watch, I can fade. I don't want to fade the flower up here. But again, I could fade it, right? I'm going to undo it though. If I wanted to get the image back, I could paint white. White would reveal it again, but I don't want to do that right now. And then let's see, what else do I want to show you about this? I'm forgetting, but it'll come back to me. So anyways, that's it. You have that option. There's really no purpose to fade the flower stem. There really is no purpose. But other images you may want to fade or soften, like hair. Our model doesn't have a lot of hair. She doesn't have a lot of flowing hair. So, but I'll show you on her. Okay, one more thing. This is important. Let me show you why it's important to make your mask on your layer after your layer is a clipping mask. So just let me show you. I'm going to move this mask. By the way, just for you can move a mask to another layer. It may not be appropriate for that layer, but you can move it to another layer. I just dragged it to another layer. Anyways, normally you don't want to do that. Now watch, I'm going to change my flower smart object into a regular layer by rasterizing it. Normally you don't do this, but I'm just going to show you. When I rasterize a layer, it's a regular layer. The little image is gone for the mask, or not the mask, the smart object. The smart object icon is gone. Okay, now watch. I'm going to drag the layer mask back on. So this is a regular layer with a mask. And this is what I don't want you to do. You're like, oh, I forgot to make this a smart object. So I'm just going to make it a smart object now, but you don't want to do it after you've made your mask. But let me show you what's going to happen. So I'm going to make this a smart object. Do I have to do it this way? Let's see. Convert to smart object. Okay. And so what happened was, it's a smart object now, but the mask is nested inside that smart object. So now I don't see your mask. So me as your teacher, I'm going to be grumpy about this. I'm going to be like, oh, now I actually have to open the smart object. And your art director would too. Your art director would be like, oh, I'm busy. I don't want to like go in there. But here's watch. I'll show you. If I go inside, if I double click on the smart object layer, it will open up that smart object individually by itself. Oh, and here's the mask, right? And so don't think, oh, it's okay, Dave's just going to do that. No. That's going to make me irritable. And it's part of your grade. I think I put, I tell you in my mask, so you'll probably lose a few points if I have to do this. Don't make me do this. It's not technically wrong. It's not technically wrong. It's just more difficult to access the mask. It's more difficult for your art director or your boss to just see your mask. And that's it. It's just more difficult. And so you don't want difficulty. Anyways, I'm in smart object mode. To get out of smart object mode, I just click. It has a temporary flower document open. I'm just going to close it and it's back to normal. So I'm just going to undo all that. I'm going to go undo. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. I undid it. So let's say this is you, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't make my flower a smart object, but I already made my mask. Now what do I do? Well, here's how you do it. So I'm recording this so you'll know. Move your mask away first. So just move it away. Move it away onto another layer that doesn't have a mask, right? Then on your flower layer or whatever layer you're working on, make it a smart object. So I'm going to make it a smart object. Then drag your mask back onto your smart object layer. That way my mask is visible. It's a smart object. It's easy for me to grade it. I'm just look, I'm like, okay, they got a mask, perfect. I will open up a couple of your layers to make sure that your smart object is the correct resolution. But I'm not going to open up all of them because I don't want to. I'll trust. Like if you have, like I'll open up 2 or 3. And if the resolution is correct, then I'm like, that's enough. You probably did them correct on all of them. But if like one of them doesn't have the correct resolution, I'm like, oh, now I got to check all of them and I'll make sure. And then you might lose a couple points. So, but whatever, that's it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I do have it the way you just showed us not to do it.
So you did. So it hid your mask. Did it hide your mask?
Yeah, I just see that I have 2 things with the mask hidden. How do I undo that?
Well, if you did it right away, you can undo it like what I did. But if you did it like many steps ago, you may just have to do your mask again.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know if you could drag it. I mean, you might be able to drag. Now you've got me curious and everyone's going to be
You
mad.
have to
Let's see.
you have to make a mask before you turn it into a smart object, right? Or the other.
No, you make it a smart object first. All
Okay.
your layers of smart objects first, then you do your masks.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but let me see if I can do it. Because now you got me curious. Okay, so I'm going to put it back. So I'm doing it wrong right now. So now I'm going to make it a smart object. I'm curious if I can drag it back. Let's see. Okay, so now it disappeared. So now I'm going to double click on my flower. I'm going to see if I can drag this mask back to my project and put it on another layer. Let me find out. I'm going to drag it. Ooh, it doesn't let me. No. Okay, let me see if I can drag that layer though. Okay, so hold on, let me try this. Okay, I'm gonna drag the layer. Let's see if I can just drag. So this is my smart object, like isolated. My smart object's isolated. Let me see if I can just drag this whole thing back. Let's try this. Okay. So whoever was asking me that, I was able to drag it back in. So I double clicked it, opened it separately. I dragged the whole layer back into my other tab, my document, but looking at it, it's not a smart object. So if I make it a smart object again, it'll disappear again. So what you want to do is you can drag your mask to another layer temporarily, make your flower or whatever, make it a smart object, then drag the mask back. So it is possible to get it back if you were able to follow that.
I was. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I've never had to do that. So you guys taught me something, but I want to say I never make mistakes. So I never had to do it, but I make all kinds of mistakes. I guess I just never made that. I just never did that before. So that's good. Okay, so it is possible. So keep that in mind, people. It's recorded. So if that doesn't make sense, you can watch that again. Okay, but that was interesting. That was interesting for me. Okay, so what about, let's talk about easier masks. So that was kind of, but using the lasso is useful for masks that really matter. But what about a mask? Let's move on. Let's talk about, where's my bag? Oh, here's my bag. So let's look at the bag. So the bag has a lot of white, right? And you're like, oh, I don't want to trace that. Now, technically, I could use my polygon lasso and I could trace around this thing. But that will take a long time, but it's possible. It's possible I could do this. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do it though. So I could trace around that whole thing and then I could hold the Alt key and subtract the center, right? But I don't want to do that. You're like, Dave, there's an easier way. My teacher showed me an easier way. There is an easier way, but it doesn't always work perfectly. But it works very well. It works very well if the background of your image is like perfect white. So it's like practically perfect white. So I can use my magic wand. The magic wand may be underneath your quick selection tool. The quick selection tool looks like a little brush with like a selection. But underneath it is a magic wand. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to select the white. So watch, I'm going to click on the white. So it's selected the white, and it looks like it did a pretty good job. Now, it's selected all of the white because contiguous was unchecked. Let me just show you. I don't know if that's default now to have contiguous checked. If contiguous, or unchecked that is, if contiguous is checked, it'll only select the adjacent pixels that you click on. So watch, I check mark contiguous. It's only going to select the outside white. Watch, I'll show you. See how it did that? Now, sometimes people don't like that. They're like, ew, I don't like that. Like, it's more work. But what you can do, remember how I said you can add? Oh, look, they have a little add to selection up here now too. Or you can hold shift, right? So if I hold shift, I can click in the middle here. The problem though is I got to select in between these little loops. But I can do it. I just got to zoom in. You're probably thinking, Dave, if you just unchecked contiguous, it would have selected the white everywhere. And you're right. One benefit to what I just did though, is there's little specks of white in here. And it didn't select those. Oh, it didn't select this white. Excellent, right? So actually, it was a little trickier. I had to go in and select some extra things, but it didn't select all the little white little bits in the bag. So whatever, it worked. Now I'm going to undo it. I'm just going to check, let's see, magic wand. I'm going to uncheck contiguous. So it's going to select all the white. Usually this is normally kind of what you want. You're like, I just want to select the white, all the white. So watch, contiguous is unchecked. I'm going to click on the white. It's selected all the white, but watch, I'm going to zoom in. Now you're probably thinking that's not that big of a deal, Dave. But see how it selected some of these little white parts? And I can fix that later. Look, it selected this. Like that's kind of a pain. And it kind of selected this too, but it's okay. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do you fix that? When I make the mask, when I make the mask, I have to paint white in here so that it will show this part of the image again. It's not that big of a deal. So anyways, I selected the white. This is the easy one. And I'm just going to go, and you want to make sure that your layer selected. So my layer selected, make sure it's a smart object before you make a mask. It's a smart object. And watch what I can do. I can do layer menu, layer mask. Now look what I want to select. I want to select hide selection, because what happened was I selected all the white. I didn't select the bag, I selected the white. So I want to hide that selection of white. And so this is a convenient way on how to do it. So hide selection. So that's it. So I'm going to go hide selection. Oh, you're like, it didn't work. It's because I have another bag underneath it. Oh, I did the wrong one. Okay, so there it is. So it worked, right? So that's it. So you just want to do, come on, let's go back. Oh my gosh, what did I do? Okay, I think I got it back. Okay, goodness gracious. Okay, but that's it. That's what you want to do. The old school way, don't do it the old school way. So I'm going to show you, and then you're going to forget about it. The old school way was this. You would select the white. You would select the white. Then you would inverse the selection so it selects the bag instead of the white. But don't do this. This is the old school way. You're like, oh, why are you teaching me this old school way? So let's see, I would go select menu, inverse. So instead of selecting the white, it selects the bag. So I inversed it. Then I just make a regular mask. I just go mask, I click on the mask button, and there it is. So that's another way. That's the old school way, but just forget that. Forget that information, because it's way more, it's convenient. You select the white background, you go layer menu, and you just remember you want to hide the selection because you selected the white. So you just hide selection, hide the white. So that's it. Okay, now let me do something real quick. Let's see. I'm going to make my background a color. Okay, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to hide this. So now though, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to see like, ooh, look at this. So it selected, here's my bag. Yeah. So it selected some of the pixels in my bag that were white, and it hid them. So I need to reveal them again. So I'm going to use a white brush. So I'm going to use white. I'm going to get a paintbrush. I'm going to get a hard edge brush this time, a hard edge. They call it hard round, but I call it hard edge. And now my brush is humongous. I don't need it to be that big. So I'm going to use a left bracket to make it smaller, left bracket. And I'm just going to paint at 100%. So I got to paint the white back in. And what I'm doing is, when I paint white in the mask, my mask is selected, the frame is around it. When I paint white in the mask, it reveals, it shows that original image. And it just so happens that the original image pixels were white. So it's not like I'm painting the white. I'm painting white to show the original white pixels. So that's the technical language for it. But don't worry, if like I can barely understand what I'm saying, but you guys are pretty bright. So if you do get it, great. I'm using white to reveal the original image that just happened to be white. So that's what I have to do if I select, if I use that magic wand. So there's a little bit there. So you would have to do this. You'd have to kind of like be careful and kind of check. Because your art director, ooh, look at this. That sucks. I don't know if you guys can see. Here's another problem with selecting the white. I don't know if you guys can see this very thin white border, but this is a trap. This is a trap of when you make a mask by selecting the white background and then you hide it. What happens is you can kind of see it in my thumbnail here. The edge of the mask goes right up to the edge, but sometimes it's like, it has like an alias. And so there's like, it might be like a light gray, but it leaves a remnant. It leaves a remnant of that original white border. And a lot of times you don't see it. In fact, when I zoom in and out, sometimes now it just shows up. When I zoom in, it kind of disappeared. But when I zoom away, sometimes I can see that very thin white line. And this isn't that big of a deal if it's only on one image. But in some of my projects and some of my other classes, like let's say I had this box that you may not even be able to see on the Zoom. Let's say I had this box around my flower. And let's say I duplicate my flower 100 times, like 100 times. I just duplicate that flower. I got like a field of this flower. And maybe I don't see the box, but then when I print it, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's that stupid little thin white box around all my flowers? And if you duplicate a layer with this flaw, like 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, it's a drag. So how do you avoid it? Well, if you catch it, how did I catch it? I caught it because I have this purple background and it just enables me to see it. I have more contrast. Well, basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint black around that border. I'm just going to hide it. So I'm going to get kind of a bigger brush and I'm going to paint black and just hide that remnant. I hope you guys can see that stupid line. If not, you're probably, Dave, you're crazy. But there was a very thin white line. And so basically I just painted black around the edge, the original edge of my bag in the mask. Remember, I'm in the mask layer, and that's what I did. So that's how you avoid that problem. You want to be aware of that because like I said, like I didn't even notice it at first. And as your teacher, I may not notice it because I may not be zooming in and out that much. But like I said, when you're on the job and you duplicate a layer like many times, and if it has a little flaw like on that mask, your art director, they'll be grumpy about it. They'll make you change it and they'll be like, I can't believe you did that. So just be aware of it. It's a problem that can happen. Okay, but using the magic wand, as you can tell, other than those little problems, is very convenient. Now, you don't have that problem. You don't have those flaws, though, if you use the lasso. Like if I use the lasso and painstakingly traced around that purse, I wouldn't have those problems, but it would have taken me much longer to do. So I leave it up to you. Most people like to use the magic wand and call it a day. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about magic wand. Oh, let's see, what else do I have to make a mask? Oh, the frame is the same way. So let's look at the frame. So here's my frame. And again, I'm going to use the magic wand because I like the magic wand. But you can also there's the quick selection tool. And the quick selection tool, you kind of paint your selection. So let's see if I can get it to work. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm kind of dragging it along my picture frame. And it's kind of selecting everything. Let's see. This isn't always perfect either. It looks like, ooh, see, this would be nice if I didn't want to select that inner picture. Let me see if I can do it without selecting. Oh, well, I selected everything, but maybe if I hold Alt key, yep, let me see if I can get this to work. I'm just going to click on this area. So I'm holding the Alt key and I'm trying to, I can make my, I'm using, what is this thing? What is this stupid thing called? Quick selection tool. You can tell how much I don't use it, but you can see the quick selection tool is like a brush. So I can make the brush smaller to more finely select or deselect. I want to deselect this part. I want to deselect this matte. There, I did it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That's why I teach you. That's why I teach you the brackets. Okay. So now I want to make a mask, and let's see what it looks like. So I use the quick selection tool, or I think it's quick selection. I selected the frame. Yep. Now I'm just going to make my mask. So I can go to the bottom of my layers panel and do it, or you could just go layer menu. I can go layer mask. Ooh, if I do it this way, I want to do reveal selection because I actually selected the frame itself. So I want to reveal the selection. So I'm going to do this. So there it is. Now you can see in the thumbnail that I have, I can move it around. So let's say I can move it around. Okay. And you can see that it actually looks like it worked pretty good. You can see there's black hides the image, white reveals, or you could say black conceals, white reveals. But there's some holes here. There's some holes in the frame that I want to hide. Like I want to hide these parts. Now, you might be thinking, but Dave, couldn't you have been more careful with your selection? Maybe. Let me see if the magic wand will select this stuff. I have to go back to the layer itself. Kind of. I can select. The problem is, so I'm trying to select the gray and the white in these. They're kind of like little diamond holes. And the problem is there's also gray and white in like in parts of the picture, and I don't want to lose all that. So you might be thinking, but Dave, you can lower the tolerance. Oh, let me try it. The problem is if I lower the tolerance, it'll select less. So let me try it. I have to hold Shift. Eventually, I think it's still going to select the stuff. It's just going to be more of a pain in the butt to do it. So far, it's kind of doing pretty good. Ooh, uh-oh. Here, it's selecting some of this stuff. And so that can be problematic. Okay, so I'm going to undo, Control D. I'm going to put my tolerance back to 32. 32 is a good tolerance for your magic wand, right? Tolerance just means how many variations of that color it'll select. So what I have to do is this. And this is what the teacher that put this together, she wanted you to kind of experience painting out some stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure your mask is selected. Make sure your mask is selected. You're going to pick black. Usually when you select your mask, your foreground and background fill with black and white because you're in mask mode, right? I'm going to pick a paintbrush, but I recommend not a soft brush. So you're going to go hard edge, hard round. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make your brush really small and make sure the opacity of your brush is 100%. And you're just going to paint this. Now you're probably thinking, oh, that looks like you're painting purple, Dave. No. I'm painting black. I'm painting black in the mask, and it's hiding the image, and you see the purple underneath it. If I had my green background, you would see the green background. So watch. So I'm still in the mask. Oh boy, I'm in the mask. I'm painting black with a small brush, and I'm hiding that diamond of gray in the mask so that I can see through the mask to whatever layers are underneath it. Currently, the layer underneath it is whatever, the background grass. So now, oh boy, this is taking forever. You're like, Dave, that's taking forever. It is. It is. Now look, here's a little line. I think there's like supposed to be a gap here. So I can make my brush small. And how do you paint a straight line with your paintbrush? You're going to click a spot, hold shift, go to the end of your line, click a spot, and that'll paint a straight line. I'll just show you again real quick and then I'll undo it. So watch, if I click a spot here, hold shift, and then click another spot, it'll paint a straight line in between. Now the problem is I don't want to have a big line that hides, part of my mask. So that was black. I use black to hide it. I can use white. I can flip it so that I have white. There's a little switch button here. I can switch it to white, and I can paint white to reveal the image on my picture frame, right? So anyways, this is going to take forever. Now, some of you are crafty, so I'm going to go back to black, and you're like, hey, Dave, can't I just use the polygon? You don't have to do this, by the way. It's just options. Like, Dave, can I use the polygon lasso to trace that diamond shape and then just fill it with black? In fact, watch, I can make a selection there. I can hold shift, make another selection. I can select all these diamonds. I wouldn't select all of them. I'd select because if you screw up, you're going to lose all your selections. I'm going to select 3. Watch. I'm holding shift with my polygon lasso, and I'm selecting the diamond shapes. Okay, so I made a selection of 3 of those diamond shapes. I'm already in the mask. But as I mentioned a week or 2 ago, I can use selections as a stencil. So I can either A, just fill that in rapidly with black, like this. You don't want to do this. I could just rapidly fill this in with black and kind of go to the edge. Or I can fill those selections with black in my mask. If I fill those with black in my mask, it will work as if I painted it. So watch, the shortcut to fill is Alt. You have to hold down the Alt key, then you press Delete, and it will do that. So that's the way I would do it, because that's just the way I've always done it. So like, now you could use the paintbrush, but I would go in, I would just select many of these diamonds. They're not perfect diamonds either. So using the lasso kind of helps me do it. Oh, click. And then I'd kind of zoom out. I'd find some more, like I'd kind of go over here. I'm going to hold shift. And I'm just going to trace all these. They're all different too, of course. Like it'd be nice if I could duplicate my selection, but like you can see, this is like not even a diamond. I don't know what kind of shape this is, but I can't just copy this. It's a different shape here, so I can select this. So you can see what a pain this is, but oops, I have to hold shift and I can add to the selection. So I'm going to add to the selection here, holding shift. So you can see how time consuming this can be when you are making the perfect mask. You want to make a perfect mask. I'm not going to select all of these, but anyways, I have 3 of them selected. I have black selected. My mask is selected. I'm going to fill those selections with black in my mask by holding the Alt key. So I hold the Alt key and I press Delete, and it fills them with black. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, to deselect, you press Control D. And on a Mac, it'd be Command D. All control selections are Command on a Mac. So that's just the way you do it. It takes a little bit of time, but eventually you're going to have the perfect selection. It just takes a little bit of time. But the more practice you get, the faster this happens. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but you will. I'm sorry. You're like, you kind of seemed sadistically happy that we're going to do all that hard work. Yeah. But remember, it's just good practice. And you don't always, like the bag was easy, but the picture frame, yeah, you got to hide these little gaps, these little diamond gaps. You have to hide them. So whatever, that's what it is. I'm not going to do it all. But you'll do it. Okay, so I'm done with that. Let's see. Any questions so far? Okay, so far so good. Now let's go to, question?
Yeah, David, would you say the picture frame is the hardest one out of all the images?
No, no, I think the model, well, no, it actually the tree, no, it's just a pain. It's a pain in the butt.
It's all a pain.
Yeah. The
Okay.
tree's a pain in the butt, and then the model's kind of difficult too. So
All right.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to the model because she's probably the most important part of this collage because she's our kind of our human, she's our human subject matter, right? Now, just looking at this image, it's a terrible, like watch, I'm gonna zoom in on it. Look at this terrible pixelation. This is a terrible image quality when I zoom in. Like this is pixelation. But so normally you would avoid her, like you would avoid this image normally, like if you're working professionally. Um, but when I zoom out, she's pretty small. And for this homework assignment, it's okay. But normally you would just have a higher resolution image. Like she would be twice the size. And then you'd shrink her down so that she would have still a high quality, right? But whatever, it is what it is, right? Now, the tricky part of selecting her is her gray on her outfit is very similar to the background. And when I try to select her, it's going to be funky. Now, old school me, I'd be like, she's very important to this project. So me, this is how I would do it. I'd be like, oh, that pixelation kills me. But I would be like, I'm just going to trace her with a lasso all the way. Like, this is what I would do. I would do this. And it would take forever. And you zoom in close and you're just very careful along these edges. And you're just going to select her the hard way. But I'm going to undo that. You can use these other tools. They just don't work perfectly. So let's try it. Let's try, I don't think the magic wand works very well. Let me try it because the magic wand will also select the backgrounds. Let me try it. Wait, I'm in the wrong layer. Sorry, wrong layer. Okay, let me try it again. Yeah, like so if I use the magic wand, it's selecting the wall, the parts of the floor. So that's not going to work. Now you're probably thinking, oh, you can lower the tolerance. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work very well. But what works pretty good is underneath, well, grouped with the magic wand is the quick selection. The quick selection mostly works. So let's try it. Let me try it. So I'm going to go. So again, in fact, I'm going to make my brush kind of smaller. So I don't know, it's about as big as, it's a little bigger than her mouth. It's a little bigger than one of these loops on her necklace. Let's see if it works. Okay, so I selected her head. I selected her skin. Okay, it selected part of her body. I'm trying to be careful though. Let's see. Okay. Okay, it kind of worked. I'm going to keep trying to select her dress. Okay, it's kind of working, but not perfect. Let's see. Actually, it looks okay. I'm going to try to select her leg here. Let's see. Yep. All right. I'm going to Okay, so it didn't select her leg perfectly. Let me zoom in here. So you can see how it kind of didn't perfectly select it. So I'm going to use my quick selection. I'm going to make my quick selection brush kind of smaller. And let's see if it can help me fine tune the selection. Ooh, kind of. Let's see. Kind of. But you can see that it's problematic. Now, I'll tell you this image is a little unfair to you. If this image was a higher resolution, the quick selection would probably work better because her skin tone would have like a sharper edge along the gray background. So if this is a higher resolution, it would probably work a little better. So I have to come back and fix this up. Now, let me try to here's a strap. Let's see. Let me see if I can, currently my quick selection tool is set to add to the selection. Let me see if so that's good. Let me see if I hold shift. Shift will also let me do it. So I could hold shift. Let me see if this works. Ooh, see, this sucks. This isn't working. So that didn't work very well. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to undo. Okay. Let me try to select this. Ooh, sucks. Dude. Okay, so not very good. Let me see if I can. Now she's got these kind of like her armpits. This ain't going to work. But I'm going to try my quick selection. I'm going to hold the Alt key to temporarily try to remove. Let's see if this works. Ooh, not. It worked a little bit, like it kind of worked here, but it didn't work here. It's kind of like her body is blending in. Okay, but it kind of worked. It kind of worked. So I'll do that. I'm going to hold the Alt key. You can also click on the subtract up here, but I'm just going to hold the Alt key. It's a good habit. I recommend it. Okay, so that didn't work. I'm going to undo that. Let me try this. That kind of worked. Okay, so you can see that it mostly worked. Let's see. Let's look at her hair. Her hair is okay. It's kind of okay. It's okay. So now it mostly worked. It mostly worked. But like, let's see. Let's look in here. I need to add back part of her. I assume this is part of her body. It's kind of hard to tell. The image is a low quality, but I assume this is part of her body. Double check. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my lasso. I'm going to use my polygon lasso, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to trace the part that I want to add back. So watch, I'm going to kind of go along this edge. I think this is part of her belt. Okay, and then oops, I double clicked. That's the only problem with the polygon lasso. If you double click, it'll complete your selection, and it completed it in a way that I didn't want to complete it. So I'm going to hold Shift and do it again. So here we go. I'm going to try this again. I don't know. I think this is it. It's hard to tell. Okay, so I held Shift and I added to the selection. Okay, very good. Oh, look, part of her hand is cut off here. So again, I'm going to hold Shift. In fact, part of this arm is kind of messed up. There. So I kind of added that part. But you want to be careful on this. Like if you, like I said, you want to do it for my homework. You want to like, here you can kind of see, oh, it didn't include this. So that's why I teach you the lasso. Sometimes you just have to use the lasso. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, boy, if I have to do the lasso to fix up everything, maybe I should just do the lasso. Like I should just zoom in, do the lasso the whole way and just be done with it. That is a solution. It's up to you. Like, oh, like, look at this. So, okay, wait, first now I want to deselect. Here, the selection, this is like the hole, it's cutting into her dress. So I want to deselect part of the selection. So I'm going to use my lasso. This time I'm going to hold the Alt key to subtract my selection. So I want to, oh no, wait. No, I'm wrong. Oops, I screwed up. Actually, I want to add, I'm sorry, this is deselected already. I want to add this part of her dress back in. Oh, sorry. So Shift. So it is Shift. I want to add Shift, and I'm going to add this part of her dress back in. Okay. I could add, I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to add this little part here. Now you're probably thinking, Dave, do I really have to be that precise? You should be, especially on the model. Like the tree has so many organic little parts, like you don't notice it as much. But like, because this is a person, like this is a person subject matter, people tend to pay more closer attention. So she has to be more precise. Now I need to cut away this hole. So I'm going to hold the Alt key. I'm going to hold the Alt key and I'm going to cut this away. Okay, there, that was pretty good. Let's see if I got her. She's almost done. Oh, shoot. I'm not going to finish these loops, but you would finish those loops. I am going to fix her leg though, because her leg it looks bad. So again, I'm going to use lasso. I'm going to hold Shift. And now I'm just going to more carefully follow that edge of her leg. Now you might be thinking, but it's kind of blurry. How do I know exactly where her leg ends and begins? You have to just make a judgment call. Oh, here I gotta, do I have to, so I have to add this part of her leg. I guess I didn't add this last time. But you can see what a pain that is. Okay, it's almost break time. Let me finish her and then we'll take a break. Let's see. Then I need to deselect this. I'm gonna hold the Alt key. I'm gonna hold the Alt key and I'm gonna subtract this part of the selection. I'm going a little fast. You might be a little more careful. Okay, so I had to double click to do that. I have to fix her foot. I'll do it. I'll just do it real quick. Oh gosh, I got to fix this too. So Alt key, oh my gosh, see? So that's, and I'm gonna hold Shift to add this part of her shoe. It looks like there's a little more of her shoe right here. Okay. Okay, so I haven't added these loops, but you would have to add those loops. I'm just gonna, to save time, I'm not gonna do that. So again, you might be thinking, wow, do I use the quick selection and then do the lasso? Or do I just do the lasso and just lasso her perfectly to begin with? I leave it up to you, it's up to you. I think it was a little quicker to use the quick selection, but I don't know, I leave it up to you. But again, I still have to I have to add, I got to cut this part away. I have to add this part, and then I have to cut away the inside of that loop. So there's still some work to do, but I'm done. I'm going to make a selection. I'm going to make a mask of her. So I'm going to click on the, again, just the bottom of the layers panel. It's a box with a circle. I'm going to make that mask. She looks pretty good, although her hair, she's got this spike here. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. Now, this is where, it just looks like this looks bad because I'm zoomed in so close. This is where you could probably feather her mask 1 pixel. So I'm going to feather her selection 1 pixel. So I'm just going to, when I select the mask in the layers panel, usually your properties panel will pop up, and usually it's like mine's open. So I'm just going to do feather 1 pixel. I'm just going to do 1. Did that even do anything? Hear me undo it. Oh yeah, it did. It did. It's subtle. So this is coming from me. I don't recommend more than 1 pixel feather. I don't recommend 1 pixel feather. Some people do 2 pixels, but it kind of softens the edge a little bit. If it's like a fuzzy, soft, wool or a cloud or hair, yeah, you can soften more than 1 pixel. But like she has kind of a sharp edge on her clothes. I don't like it. This doesn't look good. I don't like it here. Let me get rid of it again. Oh no. So I leave it up to you. But I don't recommend more than 1 pixel. Some instructors yeah, 2 pixels is okay. What really matters is when you're on the job. When you're on the job, I would maybe feather 1 pixel. And then if your art director says, you can feather it some more, yeah, I want you to do 2 or 3, then just do what they tell you to. Because every job will have their own way, their own style. So, but I recommend 1 pixel. Okay, there she is. So we used quick selection. We used the magic wand. We used the lasso. So those are the most common ways to do it. Let me show you a way that I don't want you to do, but it is possible, but don't do this. So in fact, I don't want to do it on this. Do I have another bag handy? Let's see. I have a copy of a bag. Don't do this, okay? But just let me show you. I could do it like this. I could go, I'm just going to make a mask on this bag. And how do you make a mask? You just click on the mask button. So if I click on the mask, I get a white mask. So I get this white mask, and this is called, I think this is called Reveal All. Watch, I'll undo it. So if I did it this way, if I went layer mask, Reveal All, it'll just give me a white mask. Yeah, there it is. So it's a mask, but it's not hiding anything yet. I have to paint black in there to do it. So what I could do is I could do this. I could go paintbrush. I could pick black paint. I could pick a hard edge brush, and I could painstakingly, see, I hope you feel my pain. Don't do this. Don't ever do this. But I could go in and I could just very carefully, painstakingly paint out the background. I can make my brush smaller and go along the edge. I could hold the shift key and paint a straight line, but you can see how this will take forever. Although I could hold shift. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to hold shift. And then I can make my brush bigger and just paint this out. So technically, and you can kind of see some little black marks that are hiding my, oh, this is taking forever. So don't do it this way. But it is possible. Another thing people like to do, here, I'm just going to paint it white to reveal everything again. So I'm going to paint white again. So white will reveal the image again. Okay. Another thing people like to do, but it looks kind of bad, is you can do a real soft brush and you can pick black and you hide it like you fade it like a, like this is how you can fade it. And like, oh, I like the glow. But really what this is a lazy mask. And I'll get like amateurs will tell me, oh, no. I wanted it to have that glow effect. And it's like, nuh-uh, you were lazy. What this person should have done, you're like, Dave, that looks really good though. It looks awesome. Like, I always want to do that. No, don't do this. You're like, it has a glow. No. The best way to do a glow is to do in fact, I'll show you, to do the proper mask like this. So here's the proper mask. So I did it correctly. Then to just use an outer glow, because the outer glow, you have more control. Let me just quickly show you how to do an outer glow. It's under the FX button. It's a layer style effect. We'll talk more about these next week. You don't need to know this for today, but I just want you to have the knowledge. So I'm going to go outer glow. Here it is. I can alphabetize. So here's my outer glow. I can pick a color. Maybe I want to pick a lighter, that's kind of like an orange. Okay, I can adjust it. I can change the size. I can give it some spread. That kind of gives it some body. That's too much though. I can increase the opacity. But see, I have control. So that's how you'd really do an outer glow. So there's really no excuse to do it, to do a glow effect with a mask. In fact, I would say it's not a good way. And it makes you look like you're beginning to learn how to use. Like that's something someone would do if they didn't know how to use an outer glow and they were lazy. So, but what's my point? My point is anything is possible. Maybe you do just need a simple soft mask, not in my homework, but in a different project you're working on. And you're like, oh, I just need to soften the top edge. Well, do a mask. That's how you do it. In fact, I'll show you. Oh, oops, I meant to do this. Oh, what am I doing wrong? White. Wrong mask selected. That's wrong layer. Okay, here we go. Mask. Sometimes you may just want to like, oh, that's weird. It has a cut here. Like I must have cut it. You may just want to fade. You just may want to fade the bottom a little bit. This is not a good example, but like you could go, like maybe you just want to fade this. And that's all you need. That's all your boss wants you to do. That's fine. So, I mean, you could use a mask for that, but as far as a glow, no. But you could do this to kind of fade, or maybe I just wanted to fade this and then, I don't know, put this layer in front of something. I don't know. But whatever, it is possible. But you want to avoid that. It's better to do the masks the way I showed you. But anything is possible with Photoshop. So it is possible. Okay, so let's see. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some more. I'm going to stop recording. So let's see. I'm going to stop recording. Let's see.